Alright, welcome back. I know a lot of you guys have been asking me when I'm going to be working on the CRX again. I've been kind of putting that off because I'm really enjoying working on the Integra and getting it cleaned up and actually getting it out and driving it, taking it to a few meets, things like that. With Classic Hondas on the Dragon coming up here in just a few days, it's actually in a week from today. I do plan on working on the black CRX here because I will be taking that car. A lot of you guys have been asking if I'm taking the Integra or the CRX. Well, I do plan on taking the CRX. I feel like it's more of a classic Honda. The Integra, I'm still learning about the car, make sure that it doesn't need like wheel bearings or things like that. The tires on it are winter tires. There's still some things I want to do to it before I take it on a road trip. Classic Hondas on the Dragon is about 6 or 7 hours from where I'm located, so it's a pretty long drive. And that car's so new to me that I really don't want to just take it out there, and especially on the Tail of the Dragon where you really want to be confident in your car when you're driving it. So I will be taking the CRX because I know what it's all about. I know what it needs, and what it needs today is a fuel pump pickup. I guess it's the sock that picks up the fuel. I do have a replacement one here. If you've watched my last video on Classic Hondas on the Dragon, you'll see in a spot of that video where I get down to about a quarter tank of gas and I come to an off ramp to get gas because I know that at a quarter tank it starts having problems picking up fuel. Well, it actually dies on me on the off ramp and I have a hard time getting it started. Luckily I was able to get it started and get it to the gas station, but I want to try to go ahead and take advantage of all the capacity of the fuel tank. And I think the issue may be the fuel pickup here, the little sock that goes on the end of the fuel pump. While I'm in there, I'm going to go ahead and change the fuel pump as well. This is just a Walbro 190, so it's nothing too much bigger than the stock fuel pump. But while I'm in there, I'm going to go ahead and replace it. So let's go ahead and jump into here and see if we can get this fuel tank dropped. I've never done it before. I know it's going to be kind of a messy job, especially since I've got fuel in the tank itself. We'll just see how it goes. Alright, as you can see, the pump I pulled out was a Chinese pump. It was an aftermarket brand. It had been swapped out in the past. And the problem that I was having was at a quarter tank or less, it wasn't picking up the fuel. And I can see what the problem is here. It wasn't the fuel pump. The sock was actually on there. It's pretty nasty, but it is usable. But it was actually clocked the wrong way. You can see here where it has the notch where it's supposed to go in this spot here, rotated this direction. Well, it was rotated about 180 degrees out, which means it wasn't picking up the fuel in the lower part of the tank whenever it got low. So what I need to do is make sure that I clock this fuel pump and this new fuel sock pickup the right way whenever I put it back into the tank. So I'm going to go ahead and swap these over, or put the new sock on the new pump and make sure it's the right direction before I put it in there. I will have to do a little bit of wiring here because this is a newer style that has the clip-in style, so I'll have to do a little crimping on the wires to make sure that it's a good connection before we drop it in there as well. So let's go ahead and get to this and hopefully get this thing swapped out and working like it should be. Alright, so I've been struggling here for about an hour, 2 hours. What had happened was the previous person that had gotten into this fuel tank had rebent these lines, and they had done it in a way where this was wrapped around this line here, and things were kind of cramped up. This was kinked up on the top up here. It was really a total mess. I had to look up garage built Hondas on exactly how these lines were, and this line was actually put on upside down on top of the tank. So that's why I've got it off right now, because I've got to get some new crush washers to put on here, because the crush washers that were on there were leaking really bad whenever I powered up the fuel pump. So I've got everything lined out now. I just have to get these crush washers put on and that fuel line reattached, and then hopefully this job will be done as long as I don't see any leaks. So let's go ahead and finish this up. Alright, fuel pump is in, the car is running, but I have to say that was a really difficult job. I think it really had a lot to do with the fact that I had to rework some of those lines because the previous owner had gotten them turned around and bent, and the fuel pump wasn't going in there exactly like I was expecting. Also, I wasn't able to get the car very high off the ground. I've just got a floor jack and then jack stands, and I did not pull the tank completely out of the car. I probably should have gone ahead and just pulled the tank out of the car, but I was struggling getting the fuel lines off on the front end of that, like the filler neck and things like that. So I just left them in place, dropped it down. I was able to complete the job that way, but it really did make life difficult. So I would recommend going ahead and pulling the tank all the way out of the car and just make your life easy. Get it all put back together and then slide it back in. It will take a little bit longer that way, but honestly, it probably took longer this way because I had so many issues with just getting access to everything. Getting the straps put back in there, one of them dropped down and I had to really rework it to get it back up in the hanger area. But it's in there, the car's running, I have no leaks, the new crush washers were in there, so I'm all great on the fuel pump. I do plan on repainting the side moldings on the car here. I'm going to do that in another day, but it will be in today's video. But I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here for tonight, and we'll see you in the morning. Alright, next day here, but it's definitely not morning. I forgot I had to go to work today, so it's evening time here, but we are in the garage, and I'm going to work on the CRX. I am going to work on what I said before, which is the side moldings here. Whenever I repainted the car, my original plan was really just to treat all of the plastics and bring them back and not actually have to paint them, because paint sometimes doesn't hold up as well and it'll chip off over time. And I was able to do that on everything except the door trim here. These door trims are actually like a rubberized coating, which is unlike the fender trim and the quarter trim as well as the bumpers. They're all like a hard plastic. So this really didn't take as well on the door trim. So like whenever I use my car cover on the car, I guess that rubberized undercoating caused it to react a little bit with the paint. There's some texture on here, almost like from where the cover was laying on there, and it may have been soft and like just formed a little bit of a texture. So in certain light you can really see it. So I'm going to go ahead and sand down these side molding trims again, and instead of using the Duplicolor paint, I'm going to try the SEM Trim Black, which should look a little bit better than this because it doesn't have quite as much shine to it, which is what the original looks like. Not very shiny, just kind of that satin look. So let's go ahead and get this sanded down, masked up and everything, and hopefully throw a coat of paint on here tonight, and hopefully it'll be looking good. changed my mind and ended up only painting the door trim, and I'm glad I did because it was really going to be a lot of extra work to paint the quarter and the fender trims with the masking that I was going to have to do to keep it from going in the door jamb. Honestly, it matches perfectly with those two pieces already, so I'm really happy with how that turned out. That SEM trim black left a super smooth finish. All that texture is gone. That bumper coating from Duplicolor doesn't work nearly as well as the SEM trim black. Here's the can of it here. I got this on Amazon. I'll leave a link down in the description for that if you want to give it a shot. But it really looks nice. I painted the wiper arms with that as well. It's almost a satin finish with just a little bit of a sheen to it. I'm going to end up using that on the rebuild project as well for probably all the plastics, not just the trim pieces, the lower plastics as well, because they're in pretty bad shape and they're going to need a coat of paint. This thing is almost ready for Classic Hondas on the Dragon. I'm going to wash it up and I'm going to end up sanding and buffing on this hood a little bit maybe, because there is some body work starting to show through again with that shrinkage happening underneath the paint and clear coat. So hope you've enjoyed today's video, and we'll see you in the next one.